While I was cooking, despite my injured shoulder, my wife stormed in with McDonald's, looked at my homemade meal, and sneered, "God, even your food looks as pathetic as you do." Then turned to our 6-year-old, "Sweetie, promise mommy you'll never end up with a failure like daddy. Some men are born losers." I quietly packed away the special anniversary dinner I'd planned, watched them eat their burgers, and said nothing. Today, my phone blew up with 13 missed calls from her. Something broke inside me yesterday, and I need to get this off my chest before my brain completely seizes up. Eden and I have been married for 12 years. We have a 6-year-old daughter, Poppy, who's the light of my life. For the past decade, I've worked my ass off to provide for my family. Nothing fancy, just honest work that pays the bills and keeps us comfortable in our modest 3-bedroom in the suburbs. Never missed a mortgage payment, never complained about the long hours. 3 weeks ago, I tore my rotator cuff at work. Not completely, but enough that the doctor ordered me to wear this clunky shoulder brace and limit movement. The pain's been no joke. I've been popping ibuprofen like candy and sleeping in the recliner because I can't lie flat without my shoulder feeling like it's being ripped off. Yesterday was our anniversary, 12 years. Even with everything that's been going on between us lately, I wanted to do something special. Eden's been different these past couple years. Cold, critical, always finding something to pick at. The way I dress, how I talk. My dad jokes that Poppy still laughs at. At first, I thought it was just stress from her job, but it's become this constant thing where nothing I do measures up. Still, I remember the woman I fell in love with, so I decided to surprise her with dinner. Her favorite, pan-seared salmon with that garlic butter sauce she used to rave about, roasted asparagus, and the sourdough bread I've been learning to make during recovery. Even made tiramisu from scratch because she mentioned missing it last month. All with one working arm while managing the pain that's been my constant companion. Poppy was excited to help, wearing the little apron her grandma got her for Christmas, carefully tearing lettuce leaves for the salad while I handled the stove work. Everything was almost ready. The table was set with the fancy plates we never use, candles lit, a small wrapped gift box, simple silver earrings I'd been saving for, placed by her wine glass. At 6:42 p.m., I heard Eden's car pull in. About damn time, I thought. She was almost an hour late. No text, no call. The salmon was already resting longer than it should have. The door slammed. Eden walked in holding McDonald's bags, still in her work clothes, looking annoyed. She spotted our setup and rolled her eyes. Not even a hello. My emotional transmission failed. I just stood there, good arm still holding the serving spoon, as she dropped the fast food on the counter and told Poppy to wash her hands. Then she looked at the food I'd spent hours preparing while in serious pain, and said those words I can't get out of my head. "God, even your food looks as pathetic as you do." I might have handled just that. Marriage has ugly moments. But what came next shattered something in me that I'm not sure can be fixed. She turned to our daughter, sweet innocent Poppy still in her little apron, and told her, "Sweetie, promise mommy you'll never end up with a failure like daddy. Some men are just born losers." Look, I'm not making this up or exaggerating. Those were her exact words, in front of our 6-year-old, about her father. Poppy's face crumpled in confusion. She looked at me, then at her mom, then at the table we'd set together. I could see her little mind trying to process what was happening. I didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't slam doors. My dad always said, "Son, your true character shows in how you behave when you're at your lowest." So I quietly packed everything away while they ate their burger. Eden scrolled through her phone. Poppy picked at her Happy Meal toy, subdued. The candles burned down. After they finished, I cleaned up their trash, blew out the candles, and went to the garage where I sat in my truck for an hour, just breathing through the rage and heartbreak. When I came back in, Eden was watching some reality show. She didn't look up. I took Poppy upstairs for her bath and bedtime story routine. My little girl hugged me extra tight before falling asleep like she knew something was deeply wrong. I spent most of the night on the living room couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying the last 2 years in my head. The increasing contempt, the separate vacations, the way she turns away when I enter a room, how she's started going out more with colleagues whose names change every week. This morning at breakfast, Eden acted like nothing happened, made herself avocado toast, kissed Poppy goodbye, and left without acknowledging me. Typical Thursday, apparently. I took the day off, dropped Poppy at school, then sat in the parking lot trying to figure out what the actual fuck I'm supposed to do now. My dad's been gone 6 years, but I could almost hear him saying, "There's a difference between being patient and being a doormat, son." So I made 2 phone calls. First to my old buddy from high school who's now a divorce attorney, then to my sister, asking if Poppy and I could stay with her for a few days while I sort things out. I'm not rushing into anything, but yesterday was a line crossed that can't be uncrossed. You don't poison your child against their father. You don't crush someone who's already hurting, not someone you once promised to love. I'm picking Poppy up early tomorrow. We're going to have a weekend at my sister's place while I figure out next steps. Eden doesn't know yet. She'll notice when she comes home to an empty house and finds my note. I'm typing this with my good arm, thumb cramping from hitting these tiny keys, but somehow getting it out helps. Maybe I am a failure in some way. Maybe I could have been more ambitious, pushed harder for promotions, taken more risks. But I've been a good dad and a loyal husband. I deserve better than being publicly humiliated in front of our daughter. My shoulder throbs as a reminder of how much I've given, but it's nothing compared to the ache in my chest when I think about what this will do to Poppy. This isn't the update I thought I'd be posting when I imagined our 12th anniversary, but here we are. Sorry for the wall of text. I'm not even sure what I'm looking for here. Advice? Validation? Just needed to get this off my chest before I explode. Update 1. It's been 16 days since the McDonald's incident. 16 days of living in the same house with someone who sees me as nothing but a breathing disappointment. And 16 days of executing what my dad used to call the long game. That weekend at my sister's place was exactly what Poppy and I needed. We baked cookies, watched cartoons, and for 2 whole days, nobody called anyone a loser. My sister Jen took one look at my face when we arrived and knew something was seriously wrong. After Poppy went to bed, I showed Jen the audio recording I'd made on my phone during the incident. Yeah, I started recording arguments a few months ago when Eden's gaslighting went into overdrive. My memory's not failing. Her version of events sure as hell is. Jen cried, then got furious, then asked me what the plan was. Look, I'd love to say I handled everything perfectly after that night, but the truth is I came close to just texting Eden that I wanted a divorce and blocking her number. Rage makes you stupid, and I was running hot. But my dad's voice kept echoing in my head. Preparation beats provocation every time, son. So instead of burning it all down immediately, I came home Sunday night with Poppy, acting like nothing had changed. Eden barely looked up from her laptop when we walked in. No questions about our weekend, no hug for Poppy, just asked if I'd picked up her dry cleaning. I hadn't. The shoulder brace I was still wearing apparently wasn't explanation enough. That night, I started my checklist. First thing Monday, I opened a new bank account at a different bank. Transferred half-hour savings, not a penny more, everything documented. Changed my direct deposit information at work. Made copies of all our financial records, birth certificates, and property document. Boring, tedious stuff, but necessary. I contacted a therapist who specializes in children of divorce. Had a video consultation during my lunch break in my truck. She gave me some solid advice about supporting Poppy through this without trash-talking her mother. Hardest part of this whole thing, if I'm being honest. Wednesday was the tough one. I drove to Eden's parents' house while she was at work. Her mom made coffee while her dad studied me with that quiet, measuring look he gave. These are good people who raised a daughter I no longer recognize. I showed them the recording, showed them screenshots of Eden's texts over the past few months. Her dad's hands shook when he set down his mug. They asked if there was any chance of fixing things. Marriage counseling, maybe? I just played another recording from 2 months ago when I'd suggested exactly that. Eden had laughed and said she didn't need a mediator to tell her she'd married beneath her potential. Her parents' faces said everything. Then came the moment I hadn't planned. Eden's mom asked me point blank if I thought there was someone else. I hadn't wanted to go there. Didn't want to seem like the bitter husband inventing excuses. But the question unlocked something. All those late nights, working, the mysterious weekend conferences, her suddenly password protecting her phone last month after years of leaving it unlocked. That night while Eden was in the shower, I checked her phone. Yeah, I know how that sounds, but marriage has different privacy boundaries than normal relationships, and she'd been openly using my fingerprint to check mine for years. What I found wasn't explicit affair evidence, but something almost worse. Hundreds of texts with her boss, Jake, not just work stuff, inside jokes, complaints about me, heart emojis, plans for dinners while telling me she was working late, messages about how I just don't understand her like he does. The emotional affair playbook, highlighted and dog-eared. I took screenshots, sent them to myself, then put her phone back exactly where it was. Information is power, and right now I needed every advantage. The next phase was harder. I had to keep living normally while documenting everything. I started teaching Poppy to make simple meals on Saturday mornings. Pancakes, eggs, simple stuff a 6-year-old can handle with supervision. Eden walked in during our 3rd cooking lesson and just stared, like she couldn't process the image of her daughter learning from the husband she'd written off. She's getting suspicious now. My sudden calmness is throwing her off balance. The way I no longer flinch at her criticism, how I've started taking Poppy for ice cream after school twice a week without asking Eden's permission first. The shoulder exercises I do every morning, getting stronger literally and metaphorically. Last weekend, I took Poppy to the Children's Museum 2 towns over. Eden texted asking where we were. I replied 6 hours later with just out, home for dinner. Her response was 17 texts in a row, escalating from annoyed to threatening. I showed them to my attorney the next day. He just nodded and added them to the file. I've been quietly reconnecting with mutual friends. Eden had slowly isolated me. Nothing dramatic, just a message here, a coffee there. Not for revenge, but to re-establish my support network. You'd be surprised how many people noticed the change in Eden but didn't know how to bring it up. Meanwhile, Eden's getting louder, more openly hostile, like she's trying to provoke me into doing something stupid. Last night, she accidentally knocked over my water glass onto my phone during dinner. When I calmly cleaned it up without reacting, something flashed in her eyes. Fear, maybe. The realization that her usual tactics aren't working. This morning, I had a pre-work meeting with my attorney. We finalized the divorce filing papers. They're sitting in an envelope in my truck right now. Tomorrow is the day. I didn't plan for this to align with my paycheck schedule, but it worked out that way. My shoulder's healing faster than expected. Poppy asked me this morning if we could have another sleepover at Aunt Jen's house soon. All the pieces are in position. I just picked Poppy up from school. We're heading to my sister's place for the weekend. I didn't tell Eden. My phone's been on a silent, tucked away in my jacket pocket. When I finally checked it at a gas station, I saw 13 missed calls from Eden in the past hour. Let her panic. Let her wonder. For 2 years, she's made me feel small in my own home. Made our daughter witness her father being torn down day after day. Told a 6-year-old that her daddy is a born loser. Monday morning, Eden's going to discover just how wrong she was about that. Finally, update. Something weird happened this morning. I was making pancakes in our new apartment kitchen while Poppy watched Saturday morning cartoons, and I realized I couldn't remember the last time my shoulder hurt. The physical therapist said it would be a long road to full recovery, but somewhere between all the chaos, the pain just faded into background noise. Kind of like my marriage, I guess. It's been 53 days since I left those papers on the kitchen table. 53 days of what my dad would have called reaping what you sow. And honestly, I'm still processing everything that went down. When we left off, I had taken Poppy to my sister's for the weekend without telling Eden. Those 13 missed calls? That was just the beginning. By Sunday night, my voicemail was full, and my text inbox looked like someone had a seizure on the keyboard. Mostly caps lock rage, followed by confusion. Then the classic manipulation cycle. Threats, guilt trips, sudden declarations of love. Repeat. I didn't respond to any of it. Monday morning came, and I dropped Poppy at school like normal. Her teacher pulled me aside, mentioned that Poppy seemed quieter lately. I explained we were going through some family changes. She gave me that knowing look teachers get when they've seen this play out 100 times before, slipped me a pamphlet about helping kids through divorce. Small kindnesses hit different when you're barely holding it together. Eden had gone on a girls' trip that week, which I later found out was actually a weekend with Jake at some cabin upstate. The location tags on her friend Melissa's Instagram stories didn't match the girls' wine tasting work narrative. Rookie mistake. So she came home Monday evening to an empty house and divorce papers on the kitchen table. No dramatic confrontation, no screaming match, just cold, legal reality waiting beside the pile of mail. The first text came at 7:43 p.m. Just 3 words. Is this real? I didn't answer that one either. At 9:16 p.m., she showed up at Jen's place. Eyes swollen, makeup smeared, looking nothing like the polished woman who'd called me pathetic over homemade salmon. My sister answered the door while I stayed in the guest room with Poppy. The shouting started immediately, Eden demanding to see her daughter. Jen calmly explaining that it was past Poppy's bedtime. Eden threatening to call the cops. Jen, bless her, simply pulled out her phone, showed Eden the recording from our anniversary dinner, and asked if she really wanted the police to hear how she spoke to her husband and daughter. The sudden silence was like someone hitting mute on a car alarm. Look, I didn't want things to get ugly. Despite everything, we've got a kid together. But Eden made that impossible. The next morning, she started calling mutual friends, spinning some story about me having a mental breakdown and abandoning her. What she didn't know was that I'd already had coffee with most of them over the past 2 weeks. Not to trash talk her, just to reconnect and be honest about what was happening. Her campaign backfired spectacularly when Mike, who we've known since college, texted her back simply, "We've heard the recordings, Eden." By Wednesday, Eden's mom called me, not to guilt trip or defend her daughter, but to ask if Poppy was okay. That conversation broke something. Her voice cracked when she told me that Eden had always been their challenging child, competitive, perfectionistic, never satisfied. She worried they'd failed her somehow. I reassured her that she and her husband were always welcome in Poppy's life, regardless of what happened with the divorce. The real fireworks started when Eden discovered I'd already moved half our savings. Her text was a masterpiece of keyboard smashing and creative spelling. Then came the email from my attorney, letting me know Eden had tried to empty our joint checking account but found it already closed. My attorney had suggested this move the day I filed. Smart guy. Week 2 brought a new level of desperate. Eden showed up at my workplace, making a scene in the parking lot. Coworkers awkwardly pretended not to notice as she followed me to my truck, alternating between tearful pleas and hissed threats. I just kept walking, repeating only, "Contact my attorney." My supervisor, who'd dealt with his own ugly divorce last year, just nodded at me when I walked back in. No questions asked. Bros who've been through it just know. Then came the Jake situation. I didn't plan this part, swear to God. Apparently, someone, not me, sent screenshots of Eden and Jake's texts to HR at their workplace. Office relationships aren't technically banned there, but the text showing them planning to use company time and resources for their meetups, that crossed some policy lines. Eden's Thursday night panic spiral of texts accusing me of ruining her career confirmed the fallout. I didn't respond, but I can't pretend I felt bad about it. The hardest part was helping Poppy understand what was happening without demonizing her mother. The child therapist suggested simple, honest explanation. Mommy and Daddy aren't getting along and need to live in different houses for a while. Poppy's main concern was if she could still have her stuffed bunny collection at both homes. Kids are amazingly resilient when adults don't drag them into the drama. Week 3, Eden started the desperate measures. First came the love bombing, flowers delivered to Jen's, returned to sender, a teary voicemail about remembering why we fell in love deleted, even a handwritten letter about couples counseling filed with my attorney. When that didn't work, she pivoted to using Poppy, suddenly becoming Mother of the Year during her visitation days, buying excessive gifts and talking about when we're all back home together. The therapist warned me this might happen. 5 weeks in came Eden's rock-bottom moment. During Poppy's school spring concert, Eden showed up late, clearly buzzed, and tried to make a scene about sitting in the family section with us. When the teacher gently redirected her to an empty seat in the back, Eden burst into tears, loud enough that several parents turned around. Poppy's little face when she spotted her mother being escorted out by the vice principal, that image still keeps me up some nights. The settlement negotiations started last week. My attorney sat across from hers, calmly laying out our terms. Nothing vindictive, just fair division of assets, shared custody with clear boundaries, and child support based on our income differences. Eden's lawyer kept glancing at her as she rejected every reasonable offer. Finally, my attorney simply opened a folder and placed the evidence collection on the table. Recordings, screenshots, witness statements from friends and family, documentation of her behavior at Poppy's school. Eden went completely silent. Her lawyer whispered something to her. She nodded once, face blank. They accepted our terms 20 minutes later. Yesterday, I signed the lease on a new 2-bedroom apartment 10 minutes from Poppy's school. It's nothing fancy, beige walls and outdated appliances, but it's peaceful. No walking on eggshells, no bracing for the next cutting remark. Just me and my daughter making pancakes on Saturday mornings while cartoons play in the background. Eden's still calling, but less frequently. Her last text just said, "I didn't think you'd actually leave. 12 years together, and she never really knew me at all." My supervisor called me into his office Friday. I thought maybe there was an issue with all the personal time I've taken, but instead he offered me a small promotion. Nothing life-changing, just a step up with a bit better pay. First, good news in months. This morning, Poppy asked if we could invite her grandparents over for dinner next weekend. She wants to show them my special dinner that never got eaten that night. So I'm going to make that anniversary salmon again. This time, it'll be appreciated. Weird how life works out sometimes. Eden thought I was a born loser, but turns out I was just born into the wrong marriage, and now I'm finally free of it.